Chapter 4. You know, perhaps, yes, I told you myself, began Svidrigailov, that I was in the debtor's prison here for an immense sum and had not any expectation of being able to pay it. There's no need to go into particulars how Marfa Petrovna bought me out. Do you know to what a point of insanity a woman can sometimes love? She was an honest woman and very sensible, although completely uneducated. Would you believe that this honest and jealous woman, after many scenes of hysterics and reproaches, condescended to enter into a kind of contract with me, which she kept throughout our married life? She was considerably older than I, and besides, she always kept a clove or something in her mouth. There was so much swinishness in my soul and honesty too, of a sort, as to tell her straight out that I couldn't be absolutely faithful to her. This confession drove her to frenzy, but yet she seems in a way to have liked my brutal frankness. She thought it showed I was unwilling to deceive her if I warned her like this beforehand, and for a jealous woman, you know, that's the first consideration. After many tears, an unwritten contract was drawn up between us. First, that I would never leave Marfa Petrovna and would always be her husband. Secondly, that I would never absent myself without her permission. Thirdly, that I would never set up a permanent mistress. Fourthly, in return for this, Marfa Petrovna gave me a free hand with the maidservants, but only with her secret knowledge. Fifthly, God forbid my falling in love with a woman of our class. Sixthly, in case I, which God forbid, should be visited by a great serious passion, I was bound to reveal it to Marfa Petrovna. On this last score, however, Marfa Petrovna was fairly at ease. She was a sensible woman, and so she could not help looking upon me as a dissolute profligate incapable of real love. But a sensible woman and a jealous woman are two very different things, and that's where the trouble came in. But to judge some people impartially, we must renounce certain preconceived opinions and our habitual attitude to the ordinary people about us. I have reason to have faith in your judgment rather than in anyone's. Perhaps you have already heard a great deal that was ridiculous and absurd about Marfa Petrovna. She certainly had some very ridiculous ways, but I tell you frankly that I feel really sorry for the innumerable woes of which I was the cause. Well, and that's enough, I think, by way of a decorous oraison funebra for the most tender wife of a most tender husband. When we quarreled, I usually held my tongue and did not irritate her, and that gentlemanly conduct rarely failed to attain its object. It influenced her, it pleased her indeed. These were times when she was positively proud of me, but your sister she couldn't put up with anyway. And however she came to risk taking such a beautiful creature into her house as a governess. My explanation is that Marfa Petrovna was an ardent and impressionable woman and simply fell in love herself. Literally fell in love with your sister. Well, little wonder, look at Avditia Romanovna. I saw the danger at the first glance, and what do you think? I resolved not to look at her even. But Avditia Romanovna herself made the first step. Would you believe it? Would you believe it too that Marfa Petrovna was positively angry with me at first for my persistent silence about your sister, for my careless reception of her continual adoring praises of Avditia Romanovna? I don't know what it was she wanted. Well, of course, Marfa Petrovna told Avditia Romanovna every detail about me. She had the unfortunate habit of telling literally everyone all our family secrets and continually complaining of me. How could she fail to confide in such a delightful new friend? I expect they talked of nothing else but me, and no doubt Avditia Romanovna heard all those dark mysterious rumors that were current about me. I don't mind betting that you too have heard something of the sort already. I have. Luzhin charged you with having caused the death of a child. Is that true? Don't refer to those vulgar tales, I beg, said Svidrigailov with disgust and annoyance. If you insist on wanting to know about all that idiocy, I will tell you one day, but now. I was told, too, about some footman of yours in the country whom you treated badly. I beg you to drop the subject. Svidrigailov interrupted again with obvious impatience. Was that the footman who came to you after death to fill your pipe? You told me about it yourself. Raskolnikov felt more and more irritated. Svidrigailov looked at him attentively, and Raskolnikov fancied he caught a flash of spiteful mockery in that look. But Svidrigailov restrained himself and answered very civilly. Yes, it was. I see that you, too, are extremely interested, and shall feel it my duty to satisfy your curiosity at the first opportunity. Upon my soul, I see that I really might pass for a romantic figure with some people. Judge how grateful I must be to Marfa Petrovna for having repeated to Avditia Romanovna such mysterious and interesting gossip about me. I dare not guess what impression it made on her, but in any case it worked in my interests. With all Avditia Romanovna's natural aversion, and in spite of my invariably gloomy and repellent aspect, she did at least feel pity for me, pity for a lost soul. And if once a girl's heart is moved to pity, it's more dangerous than anything. She is bound to want to save him, to bring him to his senses, and lift him up and draw him to nobler aims, and restore him to new life and usefulness. Well, we all know how far such dreams can go. I saw at once that the bird was flying into the cage of herself. And I too made ready. I think you are frowning, Rodion Romanovich, there's no need. As you know, it all ended in smoke. Hang it all, what a lot I am drinking. Do you know, I always, from the very beginning, regretted that it wasn't your sister's fate to be born in the 2nd or 3rd century AD, as the daughter of a reigning prince or some governor or proconsul in Asia Minor. She would undoubtedly have been one of those who would endure martyrdom, and would have smiled when they branded her bosom with hot pincers. And she would have gone to it of herself. And in the 4th or 5th century, she would have walked away into the Egyptian desert, and would have stayed there 30 years living on roots and ecstasies and visions. She is simply thirsting to face some torture for someone, and if she can't get her torture, she'll throw herself out of a window. I've heard something of a Mr. Razumihin. He's said to be a sensible fellow. His surname suggests it, indeed. He's probably a divinity student. Well, he'd better look after your sister. I believe I understand her, and I am proud of it. But at the beginning of an acquaintance, as you know, one is apt to be more heedless and stupid. One doesn't see clearly. Hang it all, why is she so handsome? It's not my fault. In fact, it began on my side with a most irresistible physical desire. Avditia Romanovna is awfully chaste, incredibly and phenomenally so. Take note, I tell you this about your sister as a fact. She's almost morbidly chaste, in spite of her broad intelligence, and it will stand in her way. There happened to be a girl in the house then, Parasha, a black-eyed wench whom I had never seen before. She had just come from another village, very pretty but incredibly stupid. She burst into tears, wailed so that she could be heard all over the place and caused scandal. One day after dinner, Avditia Romanovna followed me into an avenue in the garden, and with flashing eyes insisted on my leaving poor Parasha alone. It was almost our first conversation by ourselves. I, of course, was only too pleased to obey her wishes, tried to appear disconcerted, embarrassed, in fact played my part not badly. Then came interviews, mysterious conversations, exhortations, entreaties, supplications, even tears. Would you believe it, even tears? Think what the passion for propaganda will bring some girls to. I, of course, threw it all on my destiny, posed as hungering and thirsting for light, and finally resorted to the most powerful weapon in the subjection of the female heart, a weapon which never fails one. It's the well-known resource flattery. Nothing in the world is harder than speaking the truth and nothing easier than flattery. If there's the 100th part of a false note in speaking the truth, it leads to a discord, and that leads to trouble. But if all, to the last note, is false in flattery, it is just as agreeable, and is heard not without satisfaction. It may be a coarse satisfaction, but still a satisfaction. And however coarse the flattery, at least half will be sure to seem true. That's so for all stages of development and classes of society. A Vestal virgin might be seduced by flattery. I can never remember without laughter how I once seduced a lady who was devoted to her husband, her children, and her principles. What fun it was, and how little trouble. And the lady really had principles, of her own, anyway. All my tactics lay in simply being utterly annihilated and prostrate before her purity. I flattered her shamelessly, and as soon as I succeeded in getting a pressure of the hand, even a glance from her, I would reproach myself for having snatched it by force, and would declare that she had resisted, so that I could never have gained anything but for my being so unprincipled. I maintained that she was so innocent that she could not foresee my treachery, and yielded to me unconsciously, unawares, and so on. In fact, I triumphed, while my lady remained firmly convinced that she was innocent, chaste, and faithful to all her duties and obligations, and had succumbed quite by accident. And how angry she was with me when I explained to her at last that it was my sincere conviction that she was just as eager as I. Poor Marfa Petrovna was awfully weak on the side of flattery, and if I had only cared to, I might have had all her property settled on me during her lifetime. I am drinking an awful lot of wine now and talking too much. I hope you won't be angry if I mention now that I was beginning to produce the same effect on Avditia Romanovna. But I was stupid and impatient and spoiled it all. Avditia Romanovna had several times, and one time in particular, been greatly displeased by the expression of my eyes, would you believe it? There was sometimes a light in them which frightened her and grew stronger and more unguarded till it was hateful to her. No need to go into detail, but we parted. There I acted stupidly again. I fell to jeering in the coarsest way at all such propaganda and efforts to convert me. Parasha came on to the scene again, and not she alone. In fact, there was a tremendous to-do. Ah, Rodion Romanovich, if you could only see how your sister's eyes can flash sometimes. Never mind my being drunk at this moment and having had a whole glass of wine. I am speaking the truth. I assure you that this glance has haunted my dreams. The very rustle of her dress was more than I could stand at last. I really began to think that I might become epileptic. I could never have believed that I could be moved to such a frenzy. It was essential, indeed, to be reconciled, but by then it was impossible. And imagine what I did then. To what a pitch of stupidity a man can be brought by frenzy. Never undertake anything in a frenzy, Rodion Romanovich. I reflected that Avditia Romanovna was after all a beggar. Excuse me, that's not the word. But does it matter if it expresses the meaning? That she lived by her work, that she had her mother and you to keep. Hang it, you are frowning again. And I resolved to offer her all my money, 30,000 rubles I could have realized then, if she would run away with me here to Petersburg. Of course I should have vowed eternal love, rapture, and so on. Do you know, I was so wild about her at that time that if she had told me to poison Marfa Petrovna, or to cut her throat and to marry herself, it would have been done at once. But it ended in the catastrophe of which you know already. You can fancy how frantic I was when I heard that Marfa Petrovna had got hold of that scoundrelly attorney, Luzhin, and had almost made a match between them, which would really have been just the same thing as I was proposing. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? I notice that you've begun to be very attentive. You interesting young man. Svidrigailov struck the table with his fist impatiently. He was flushed. Raskolnikov saw clearly that the glass and a half of champagne that he had sipped almost unconsciously was affecting him, and he resolved to take advantage of the opportunity. He felt very suspicious of Svidrigailov. Well, after what you have said, I am fully convinced that you have come to Petersburg with designs on my sister, he said directly to Svidrigailov, in order to irritate him further. Oh, nonsense, said Svidrigailov, seeming to rouse himself. Why, I told you, besides your sister can't endure me. Yes, I am certain that she can't, but that's not the point. Are you so sure that she ca? Svidrigailov screwed up his eyes and smiled mockingly. You are right, she doesn't love me, but you can never be sure of what has passed between husband and wife or lover and mistress. There's always a little corner which remains a secret to the world and is only known to those two. Will you answer for it that Avditia Romanovna regarded me with aversion? From some words you've dropped, I notice that you still have designs, and of course evil ones, on Downia and mean to carry them out promptly. What, have I dropped words like that? Svidrigailov asked in naive dismay, taking not the slightest notice of the epithet bestowed on his designs. Why, you are dropping them even now. Why are you so frightened? What are you so afraid of now? Me afraid of you? You have rather to be afraid of me, cher ami, but what nonsense. I've drunk too much though, I see that. I was almost saying too much again. Damn the wine, hi there water. He snatched up the champagne bottle and flung it without ceremony out of the window. Philip brought the water. That's all nonsense, said Svidrigailov, wetting a towel and putting it to his head. But I can answer you in one word and annihilate all your suspicions. Do you know that I am going to get married? You told me so before. Did I? I've forgotten. But I couldn't have told you so for certain, for I had not even seen my betrothed. I only meant to. But now I really have a betrothed and it's a settled thing, and if it weren't that I have business that can't be put off, I would have taken you to see them at once, for I should like to ask your advice. Hang it, only 10 minutes left. See, look at the watch. But I must tell you, for it's an interesting story, my marriage in its own way. Where are you off to, going again? No, I'm not going away now. Not at all, we shall see. I'll take you there, I'll show you my betrothed, only not now, for you'll soon have to be off. You have to go to the right and I to the left. Do you know that Madame Reslik, the woman I am lodging with now, I know what you're thinking, that she's the woman whose girl, they say, drowned herself in the winter. Come, are you listening? She arranged it all for me. You're bored, she said, you want something to fill up your time. For you know I am a gloomy, depressed person. Do you think I'm light-hearted? No, I'm gloomy, I do no harm but sit in a corner without speaking a word for 3 days at a time. And that Reslik is a sly hussy, I tell you. I know what she has got in her mind. She thinks I shall get sick of it, abandon my wife and depart, and she'll get hold of her and make a profit out of her in our class, of course, or higher. She told me the father was a broken-down retired official, who has been sitting in a chair for the last 3 years with his legs paralyzed. The mama, she said, was a sensible woman. There is a son serving in the provinces, but he doesn't help. There is a daughter who is married, but she doesn't visit them. And they've 2 little nephews on their hands, as though their own children were not enough. And they've taken from school their youngest daughter, a girl who will be 16 in another month, so that then she can be married. She was for me. We went there. How funny it was, I present myself. A landowner, a widower of a well-known name with connections with a fortune. What if I am 50 and she is not 16? Who thinks of that? But it's fascinating, isn't it? It is fascinating, haha. You should have seen how I talked to the papa and mama. It was worth paying to have seen me at that moment. She comes in, curtsies, you can fancy, still in a short frock and unopened bud. Flushing like a sunset, she had been told, no doubt. I don't know how you feel about female faces, but to my mind these 16 years, these childish eyes, shyness and tears of bashfulness are better than beauty. And she is a perfect little picture, too. Fair hair and little curls, like a lamb's, full little rosy lips, tiny feet, a charmer. Well, we made friends. I told them I was in a hurry owing to domestic circumstances, and the next day, that is the day before yesterday, we were betrothed. When I go now, I take her on my knee at once and keep her there. Well, she flushes like a sunset, and I kiss her every minute. Her mama, of course, impresses on her that this is her husband, and that this must be so. It's simply delicious. The present betrothed condition is perhaps better than marriage. Here you have what is called la nature et la vérité, haha. I've talked to her twice, she is far from a fool. Sometimes she steals a look at me that positively scorches me. Her face is like Raphael's Madonna. You know, the Sistine Madonna's face has something fantastic in it, the face of mournful religious ecstasy. Haven't you noticed it? Well, she's something in that line. The day after we'd been betrothed, I bought her presents to the value of 1,500 rubles. A set of diamonds and another of pearls and a silver dressing case as large as this, with all sorts of things in it, so that even my Madonna's face glowed. I sat her on my knee, yesterday, and I suppose rather too unceremoniously, she flushed crimson and the tears started, but she didn't want to show it. We were left alone, she suddenly flung herself on my neck for the first time of her own accord, put her little arms round me, kissed me, and vowed that she would be an obedient, faithful, and good wife, would make me happy, would devote all her life, every minute of her life, would sacrifice everything, and that all she asks in return is my respect, and that she wants nothing more from me, no presents. You'll admit that to hear such a confession, alone, from an angel of 16 in a muslin frock, with little curls, with a flush of maiden shyness in her cheeks and tears of enthusiasm in her eyes is rather fascinating. Isn't it fascinating? It's worth paying for, isn't it? Well, listen, we'll go to see my betrothed, only not just now. The fact is this monstrous difference in age and development excites your sensuality. Will you really make such a marriage? Why, of course. Everyone thinks of himself and he lives most gaily who knows best how to deceive himself. Haha, but why are you so keen about virtue? Have mercy on me, my good friend. I am a sinful man, ha ha ha. But you have provided for the children of Katerina Ivanovna. Though you had your own reasons, I understand it all now. I am always fond of children, very fond of them, laughed Svidrigailov. I can tell you one curious instance of it. The first day I came here I visited various haunts. After 7 years I simply rushed at them. You probably notice that I am not in a hurry to renew acquaintance with my old friends. I shall do without them as long as I can. Do you know, when I was with Marfa Petrovna in the country, I was haunted by the thought of these places, where anyone who knows his way about can find a great deal. Yes, upon my soul. The peasants have vodka, the educated young people, shut out from activity, waste themselves in impossible dreams and visions and are crippled by theories. Jews have sprung up and are amassing money, and all the rest give themselves up to debauchery. From the first hour the town reeked of its familiar odors. I chanced to be in a frightful den. I like my dens dirty, it was a dance, so-called, and there was a can-can such as I never saw in my day. Yes, there you have progress. All of a sudden I saw a little girl of 13, nicely dressed, dancing with a specialist in that line, with another one vis-a-vis. Her mother was sitting on a chair by the wall. You can't fancy what a can-can that was. The girl was ashamed, blushed, at last felt insulted and began to cry. Her partner seized her and began whirling her round and performing before her. Everyone laughed, and I like your public, even the can-can public. They laughed and shouted, serves her right, shouldn't bring children. Well, it's not my business whether that consoling reflection was logical or not. I at once fixed on my plan, sat down by the mother, and began by saying that I too was a stranger and that people here were ill-bred, and that they couldn't distinguish decent folks and treat them with respect, gave her to understand that I had plenty of money, offered to take them home in my carriage. I took them home and got to know them. They were lodging in a miserable little hole and had only just arrived from the country. She told me that she and her daughter could only regard my acquaintance as an honor. I found out that they had nothing of their own and had come to town upon some legal business. I proffered my services and money. I learnt that they had gone to the dancing saloon by mistake, believing that it was a genuine dancing class. I offered to assist in the young girl's education in French and dancing. My offer was accepted with enthusiasm as an honor, and we are still friendly. If you like, we'll go and see them, only not just now. Stop, enough of your vile, nasty anecdotes, depraved, vile, sensual man. Schiller, you are a regular Schiller. O la verdu va-t-il si nischer. But you know I shall tell you these things on purpose, for the pleasure of hearing your outcries. I dare say, I can see I am ridiculous myself, muttered Raskolnikov angrily. Svidrigaïlov laughed heartily. Finally he called Philip, paid his bill and began getting up. I say, but I am drunk as cause, he said. It's been a pleasure. I should rather think it must be a pleasure, cried Raskolnikov, getting up. No doubt it is a pleasure for a worn-out profligate to describe such adventures with a monstrous project of the same sort in his mind, especially under such circumstances, and to such a man as me. It's stimulating. Well, if you come to that, Svidrigaïlov answered, scrutinizing Raskolnikov with some surprise. If you come to that, you are a thorough cynic yourself. You've plenty to make you so anyway. You can understand a great deal. And you can do a great deal too, but enough. I sincerely regret not having had more talk with you, but I shan't lose sight of you. Only wait a bit. Svidrigaïlov walked out of the restaurant. Raskolnikov walked out after him. Svidrigaïlov was not, however, very drunk. The wine had affected him for a moment, but it was passing off every minute. He was preoccupied with something of importance and was frowning. He was apparently excited and uneasy in anticipation of something. His manner to Raskolnikov had changed during the last few minutes, and he was ruder and more sneering every moment. Raskolnikov noticed all this, and he too was uneasy. He became very suspicious of Svidrigaïlov and resolved to follow him. They came out on to the pavement. You go to the right, and I to the left, or if you like, the other way. Only adieu, mon plaisir, may we meet again. And he walked to the right towards the Hay Market. Chapter 5. Raskolnikov walked after him. What's this? Cried Svidrigaïlov, turning round. I thought I said. It means that I am not going to lose sight of you now. What? Both stood still and gazed at one another, as though measuring their strength. From all your half-tipsy stories, Raskolnikov observed harshly, I am positive that you have not given up your designs on my sister, but are pursuing them more actively than ever. I have learnt that my sister received a letter this morning. You have hardly been able to sit still all this time. You may have unearthed a wife on the way, but that means nothing. I should like to make certain myself. Raskolnikov could hardly have said himself what he wanted, and of what he wished to make certain. Upon my word, I'll call the police. Call away. Again they stood for a minute facing each other. At last Svidrigaïlov's face changed. Having satisfied himself that Raskolnikov was not frightened at his threat, he assumed a mirthful and friendly air. What a fellow! I purposely refrained from referring to your affair, though I am devoured by curiosity. It's a fantastic affair. I've put it off till another time, but you're enough to rouse the dead. Well, let us go, only I warn you beforehand I am only going home for a moment to get some money. Then I shall lock up the flat, take a cab and go to spend the evening at the islands. Now are you going to follow me? I'm coming to your lodgings, not to see you but Sofya Semyonovna, to say I'm sorry not to have been at the funeral. That's as you like, but Sofya Semyonovna is not at home. She has taken the 3 children to an old lady of high rank, the patroness of some orphan asylums, whom I used to know years ago. I charmed the old lady by depositing a sum of money with her to provide for the 3 children of Katerina Ivanovna and subscribing to the institution as well. I told her too the story of Sofya Semyonovna in full detail, suppressing nothing. It produced an indescribable effect on her. That's why Sofya Semyonovna has been invited to call today at the X Hotel where the lady is staying for the time. No matter, I'll come all the same. As you like, it's nothing to me, but I won't come with you. Here we are at home. By the way, I am convinced that you regard me with suspicion just because I have shown such delicacy and have not so far troubled you with questions. You understand? It struck you as extraordinary. I don't mind betting it as that. Well, it teaches one to show delicacy. And to listen at doors. Ah, that's it, is it? Laughed Svidrigailov. Yes, I should have been surprised if you had let that pass after all that has happened. Ha ha, though I did understand something of the pranks you had been up to and were telling Sofya Semyonovna about. What was the meaning of it? Perhaps I am quite behind the times and can't understand. For goodness sake, explain it, my dear boy. Expound the latest theories. You couldn't have heard anything, you're making it all up. But I'm not talking about that, though I did hear something. No, I'm talking of the way you keep sighing and groaning now. The Schiller in you is in revolt every moment, and now you tell me not to listen at doors. If that's how you feel, go and inform the police that you had this mischance. You made a little mistake in your theory. But if you are convinced that one mustn't listen at doors, but one may murder old women at one's pleasure, you'd better be off to America and make haste. Run, young man, there may still be time. I'm speaking sincerely. Haven't you the money? I'll give you the fare. I'm not thinking of that at all, Raskolnikov interrupted with disgust. I understand, but don't put yourself out, don't discuss it if you don't want to. I understand the questions you are worrying over, moral ones, aren't they? Duties of citizen and man, lay them all aside. They are nothing to you now, haha. You'll say you are still a man and a citizen. If so, you ought not to have got into this coil. It's no use taking up a job you are not fit for. Well, you'd better shoot yourself, or don't you want to? You seem trying to enrage me, to make me leave you. What a queer fellow, but here we are. Welcome to the staircase. You see, that's the way to Sofya Semyonovna. Look, there is no one at home. Don't you believe me? Ask Kapernaumov. She leaves the key with him. Here is Madame de Kapernaumov herself. Hey, what? She is rather deaf. Has she gone out? Where did you hear? She is not in and won't be till late in the evening probably. Well, come to my room. You wanted to come and see me, didn't you? Here we are. Madame Reslick's not at home. She's a woman who is always busy, an excellent woman, I assure you. She might have been of use to you if you had been a little more sensible. Now see, I take this 5% bond out of the bureau, see what a lot I've got of them still. This one will be turned into cash today. I mustn't waste any more time. The bureau is locked, the flat is locked, and here we are again on the stairs. Shall we take a cab? I'm going to the islands. Would you like a lift? I'll take this carriage. Ah, you refuse, you are tired of it. Come for a drive. I believe it will come on to rain. Never mind, we'll put down the hood. Svidrigailov was already in the carriage. Raskolnikov decided that his suspicions were at least for that moment unjust. Without answering a word, he turned and walked back towards the hay market. If he had only turned round on his way, he might have seen Svidrigailov get out not 100 paces off, dismiss the cab and walk along the pavement. But he had turned the corner and could see nothing. Intense disgust drew him away from Svidrigailov. To think that I could for one instant have looked for help from that coarse brute, that depraved sensualist and blackguard, he cried. Raskolnikov's judgment was uttered too lightly and hastily. There was something about Svidrigailov which gave him a certain original, even a mysterious character. As concerned his sister, Raskolnikov was convinced that Svidrigailov would not leave her in peace. But it was too tiresome and unbearable to go on thinking and thinking about this. When he was alone, he had not gone 20 paces before he sank, as usual, into deep thought. On the bridge he stood by the railing and began gazing at the water, and his sister was standing close by him. He met her at the entrance to the bridge, but passed by without seeing her. Dounia had never met him like this in the street before and was struck with dismay. She stood still, and did not know whether to call to him or not. Suddenly she saw Svidrigailov coming quickly from the direction of the hay market. He seemed to be approaching cautiously. He did not go on to the bridge, but stood aside on the pavement, doing all he could to avoid Raskolnikov seeing him. He had observed Dounia for some time and had been making signs to her. She fancied he was signaling to beg her not to speak to her brother, but to come to him. That was what Dounia did. She stole by her brother and went up to Svidrigailov. Let us make haste away, Svidrigailov whispered to her. I don't want Rodion Romanovich to know of our meeting. I must tell you I've been sitting with him in the restaurant close by, where he looked me up and I had great difficulty in getting rid of him. He has somehow heard of my letter to you and suspects something. It wasn't you who told him, of course, but if not you, who then? Well, we've turned the corner now, Downia interrupted, and my brother won't see us. I have to tell you that I am going no further with you. Speak to me here. You can tell it all in the street. In the first place, I can't say it in the street. Secondly, you must hear Sofya Semyonovna too. And thirdly, I will show you some papers. Oh well, if you won't agree to come with me, I shall refuse to give any explanation and go away at once. But I beg you not to forget that a very curious secret of your beloved brother's is entirely in my keeping. Downia stood still, hesitating, and looked at Svidrigailov with searching eyes. What are you afraid of? He observed quietly. The town is not the country, and even in the country you did me more harm than I did you. Have you prepared Sofya Semyonovna? No, I have not said a word to her and am not quite certain whether she is at home now, but most likely she is. She has buried her stepmother today. She is not likely to go visiting on such a day. For the time I don't want to speak to anyone about it, and I half regret having spoken to you. The slightest indiscretion is as bad as betrayal in a thing like this. I live there in that house. We are coming to it. That's the porter of our house. He knows me very well. You see, he's bowing. He sees I'm coming with a lady, and no doubt he has noticed your face already, and you will be glad of that if you are afraid of me and suspicious. Excuse my putting things so coarsely. I haven't a flat to myself. Sofya Semyonovna's room is next to mine. She lodges in the next flat. The whole floor is let out in lodgings. Why are you frightened like a child? Am I really so terrible? Svidrigailov's lips were twisted in a condescending smile, but he was in no smiling mood. His heart was throbbing and he could scarcely breathe. He spoke rather loud to cover his growing excitement. But Downia did not notice this peculiar excitement. She was so irritated by his remark that she was frightened of him like a child, and that he was so terrible to her. Though I know that you are not a man of honor, I am not in the least afraid of you. Lead the way, she said with apparent composure, but her face was very pale. Svidrigailov stopped at Sonya's room. Allow me to inquire whether she is at home. She is not. How unfortunate, but I know she may come quite soon. If she's gone out, it can only be to see a lady about the orphans. Their mother is dead. I've been meddling and making arrangements for them. If Sofya Semyonovna does not come back in 10 minutes, I will send her to you today if you like. This is my flat. These are my 2 rooms. Madame Reslik, my landlady, has the next room. Now look this way. I will show you my chief piece of evidence. This door from my bedroom leads into 2 perfectly empty rooms which are to let. Here they are. You must look into them with some attention. Svidrigailov occupied 2 fairly large furnished rooms. Downia was looking about her mistrustfully, but saw nothing special in the furniture or position of the rooms. Yet there was something to observe, for instance, that Svidrigailov's flat was exactly between 2 sets of almost uninhabited apartments. His rooms were not entered directly from the passage, but through the landlady's 2 almost empty rooms. Unlocking a door leading out of his bedroom, Svidrigailov showed Downia the 2 empty rooms that were to let. Downia stopped in the doorway, not knowing what she was called to look upon, but Svidrigailov hastened to explain. Look here at this second large room. Notice that door, it's locked. By the door stands a chair, the only one in the 2 rooms. I brought it from my rooms so as to listen more conveniently. Just the other side of the door is Sofya Semyonovna's table. She sat there talking to Rodion Romanovich. And I sat here listening on 2 successive evenings for 2 hours each time, and of course I was able to learn something. What do you think? You listened. Yes, I did. Now come back to my room, we can't sit down here. He brought Avditia Romanovna back into his sitting room and offered her a chair. He sat down at the opposite side of the table, at least 7 feet from her, but probably there was the same glow in his eyes which had once frightened Downia so much. She shuddered, and once more looked about her distrustfully. It was an involuntary gesture. She evidently did not wish to betray her uneasiness. But the secluded position of Svidrigailov's lodging had suddenly struck her. She wanted to ask whether his landlady at least were at home, but pride kept her from asking. Moreover, she had another trouble in her heart incomparably greater than fear for herself. She was in great distress. Here is your letter, she said, laying it on the table. Can it be true what you write? You hint at a crime committed, you say, by my brother. You hint at it too clearly, you daren't deny it now. I must tell you that I'd heard of this stupid story before you wrote and don't believe a word of it. It's a disgusting and ridiculous suspicion. I know the story and why and how it was invented. You can have no proofs. You promised to prove it. Speak. But let me warn you that I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Downia said this, speaking hurriedly, and for an instant the color rushed to her face. If you didn't believe it, how could you risk coming alone to my rooms? Why have you come? Simply from curiosity. Don't torment me, speak. There's no denying that you are a brave girl. Upon my word, I thought you would have asked Mr. Razumihin to escort you here, but he was not with you nor anywhere near. I was on the lookout. It's spirited of you, it proves you wanted to spare Rodion Romanovich. But everything is divine in you. About your brother, what am I to say to you? You've just seen him yourself. What did you think of him? Surely that's not the only thing you are building on. No, not on that, but on his own words. He came here on 2 successive evenings to see Sofia Semyonovna. I've shown you where they sat. He made a full confession to her. He is a murderer. He killed an old woman, a pawnbroker, with whom he had pawned things himself. He killed her sister too, a peddler woman called Lizaveta, who happened to come in while he was murdering her sister. He killed them with an axe he brought with him. He murdered them to rob them, and he did rob them. He took money and various things. He told all this, word for word, to Sofia Semyonovna, the only person who knows his secret. But she has had no share by word or deed in the murder. She was as horrified at it as you are now. Don't be anxious, she won't betray him. It cannot be, muttered Downia with white lips. She gasped for breath. It cannot be. There was not the slightest cause, no sort of ground. It's a lie, a lie. He robbed her, that was the cause. He took money and things. It's true that by his own admission he made no use of the money or things, but hid them under a stone, where they are now. But that was because he dared not make use of them. But how could he steal, rob? How could he dream of it? Cried Downia, and she jumped up from the chair. Why, you know him, and you've seen him, can he be a thief? She seemed to be imploring Svidrigailov. She had entirely forgotten her fear. There are thousands and millions of combinations and possibilities, Avditia Romanovna. A thief steals and knows he is a scoundrel, but I've heard of a gentleman who broke open the mail. Who knows, very likely he thought he was doing a gentlemanly thing. Of course I should not have believed it myself if I'd been told of it as you have, but I believe my own ears. He explained all the causes of it to Sofia Semyonovna too, but she did not believe her ears at first, yet she believed her own eyes at last. What were the causes? It's a long story, Avditia Romanovna. Here's, how shall I tell you? A theory of a sort, the same one by which I for instance consider that a single misdeed is permissible if the principal aim is right, a solitary wrongdoing, and hundreds of good deeds. It's galling too, of course, for a young man of gifts, and overweening pride to know that if he had, for instance, a paltry 3,000, his whole career, his whole future would be differently shaped, and yet not to have that 3,000. Add to that, nervous irritability from hunger, from lodging in a hole, from rags, from a vivid sense of the charm of his social position, and his sister's and mother's position too. Above all, vanity, pride and vanity, though goodness knows he may have good qualities too. I am not blaming him, please don't think it. Besides, it's not my business. A special little theory came in too, a theory of a sort, dividing mankind, you see, into material and superior persons, that is persons to whom the law does not apply owing to their superiority, who make laws for the rest of mankind, the material, that is. It's all right as a theory, une theorie comme une autre. Napoleon attracted him tremendously. That is, what affected him was that a great many men of genius have not hesitated at wrongdoing, but have overstepped the law without thinking about it. He seems to have fancied that he was a genius too. That is, he was convinced of it for a time. He has suffered a great deal, and is still suffering from the idea that he could make a theory, but was incapable of boldly overstepping the law, and so he is not a man of genius. And that's humiliating for a young man of any pride, in our day especially. But remorse, you deny him any moral feeling then, is he like that? Ah, Avditia Romanovna, everything is in a muddle now, not that it was ever in very good order. Russians in general are broad in their ideas, Avditia Romanovna, broad like their land, and exceedingly disposed to the fantastic, the chaotic. But it's a misfortune to be broad without a special genius. Do you remember what a lot of talk we had together on this subject, sitting in the evenings on the terrace after supper? Why, you used to reproach me with breadth. Who knows, perhaps we were talking at the very time when he was lying here thinking over his plan. There are no sacred traditions amongst us, especially in the educated class, Avditia Romanovna. At the best, someone will make them up somehow for himself out of books or from some old chronicle, but those are for the most part the learned and all old fogies, so that it would be almost ill-bred in a man of society. You know my opinions in general, though. I never blame anyone. I do nothing at all, I persevere in that. But we've talked of this more than once before. I was so happy indeed as to interest you in my opinions. You are very pale, Avditia Romanovna. I know his theory. I read that article of his about men to whom all is permitted. Razumihin brought it to me. Mr. Razumihin, your brother's article, in a magazine. Is there such an article? I didn't know, it must be interesting. But where are you going, Avditia Romanovna? I want to see Sofya Semyonovna, Dounia articulated faintly. How do I go to her? She has come in, perhaps. I must see her at once. Perhaps she. Avditia Romanovna could not finish. Her breath literally failed her. Sofya Semyonovna will not be back till night, at least I believe not. She was to have been back at once, but if not, then she will not be in till quite late. Ah, then you are lying, I see. You were lying all the time. I don't believe you, cried Dounia, completely losing her head. Almost fainting, she sank onto a chair which Svidrigailov made haste to give her. Avditia Romanovna, what is it? Control yourself, here is some water, drink a little. He sprinkled some water over her. Dounia shuddered and came to herself. It has acted violently, Svidrigailov muttered to himself, frowning. Avditia Romanovna, calm yourself. Believe me, he has friends, we will save him. Would you like me to take him abroad? I have money, I can get a ticket in 3 days. And as for the murder, he will do all sorts of good deeds yet to atone for it. Calm yourself. He may become a great man yet. Well, how are you? How do you feel? Cruel man, to be able to jeer at it. Let me go. Where are you going? To him. Where is he? Do you know? Why is this door locked? We came in at that door and now it is locked. When did you manage to lock it? We couldn't be shouting all over the flat on such a subject. I am far from jeering, it's simply that I'm sick of talking like this. But how can you go in such a state? Do you want to betray him? You will drive him to fury, and he will give himself up. Let me tell you, he is already being watched, they are already on his track. You will simply be giving him away. Wait a little, I saw him and was talking to him just now. He can still be saved. Wait a bit, sit down, let us think it over together. I asked you to come in order to discuss it alone with you and to consider it thoroughly. But do sit down. How can you save him? Can he really be saved? Dounia sat down. Svidrigailov sat down beside her. It all depends on you alone. He began with glowing eyes, almost in a whisper and hardly able to utter the words for emotion. Dounia drew back from him in alarm. He too was trembling all over. You, one word from you and he is saved. I'll save him, I have money and friends, I'll send him away at once. I'll get a passport, 2 passports, one for him and one for me. I have friends, capable people. If you like, I'll take a passport for you, for your mother. What do you want with Razumihin? I love you too. I love you beyond everything. Let me kiss the hem of your dress, let me. The very rustle of it is too much for me. Tell me, do that, and I'll do it. I'll do everything. I will do the impossible. What you believe, I will believe. I'll do anything. Don't look at me like that. Do you know that you are killing me? He was almost beginning to rave. Something seemed suddenly to go to his head. Dounia jumped up and rushed to the door. Open it, she called, shaking the door. Open it, is there no one there? Svidrigailov got up and came to himself. His still trembling lips slowly broke into an angry, mocking smile. There is no one at home, he said quietly and emphatically. The landlady has gone out, and it's waste of time to shout like that. You are only exciting yourself uselessly. Where is the key? Open the door at once, base man. I have lost the key and cannot find it. This is an outrage, cried Dounia, turning pale as death. She rushed to the furthest corner, where she made haste to barricade herself with a little table. She did not scream, but she fixed her eyes on her tormentor and watched every movement he made. Svidrigailov remained standing at the other end of the room facing her. He was positively composed, at least in appearance, but his face was pale as before. The mocking smile did not leave his face.